The marble floors of the Manhattan family court gleamed under fluorescent lights as Marcus Chen sat alone on the wooden bench, his worn Timex watch reading 2:47 p.m. His hands, calloused from years of construction work, trembled slightly as he clutched a manila folder containing photographs of his daughter, Lily. She was 7 years old. He hadn't seen her in 3 months. Across the hallway, his ex-wife Victoria Ashford Chen held court like a queen receiving subjects. Her Hermes Birkin bag, the coral pink one, $45,000 retail, rested casually on the bench beside her. Her new husband, Bradley Ashford III, stood with his hand possessively on her shoulder, his Patek Philippe watch catching the light as he checked his phone. Bradley was everything Marcus wasn't. Yale law graduate, partner at Ashford and Sterling, his family's firm, naturally, old money that stretched back to the Mayflower. "Look at him," Bradley's voice carried deliberately across the hallway, still wearing that J.C. Penney suit. You'd think he'd at least try to look presentable for his own custody hearing. Victoria laughed, the sound like crystal breaking. "He can't afford anything better, darling. I heard he's working double shifts at that construction company just to pay his studio apartment rent." Marcus kept his eyes down. Let them talk. Let them think they'd won before the judge even entered chambers. The truth was more complicated than they knew. Marcus had worked construction 15 years ago when he first came to America from Taiwan. With nothing but a college degree, his parents had sacrificed everything to provide. He'd met Victoria at a charity build for Habitat for Humanity. She'd been slumming it, taking Instagram photos with the little people for her social media following. He'd been mesmerized by her beauty, her confidence. He'd mistaken her attraction to him as love, not realizing she was rebelling against her father's expectations. Their marriage had lasted 5 years, long enough for Lily to be born, long enough for Marcus to endure countless dinners where Victoria's mother asked when he'd get a real job, long enough for him to realize that to the Ashford family, he would always be the help who got lucky. The divorce had been brutal. Victoria had taken everything, the house he'd paid for with his bonuses, the car, even the dog. The only thing Marcus had fought for was Lily, joint custody, every other weekend, Wednesday dinners. Then Victoria married Bradley 6 months ago, and suddenly Marcus's custody arrangement became problematic. Lily needed stability. She needed to be in a proper household. The Wednesday dinners stopped. The weekend visits became supervised. Then they stopped altogether. Now they were back in court, and Victoria's lawyers, 3 of them from Ashford and Sterling, all wearing suits that cost more than Marcus's monthly salary, were asking for sole custody. They claimed Marcus was unstable, that his work hours were inappropriate, that his apartment was unsuitable for a child. Marcus had one lawyer, David Park, a public defender who handled family cases pro bono on weekends. Good man, overworked, outgunned. "Mr. Chen," the bailiff appeared at the door. "Judge Morrison will see you now." Marcus stood, his knees cracking slightly. He was only 38, but his body felt older. Victoria swept past him into the courtroom, her Tom Ford perfume leaving a trail of gardenias and condescension. The courtroom was smaller than Marcus expected. Judge Ellen Morrison presided from the bench, a black woman in her 50s with reading glasses perched on her nose, and an expression that suggested she'd seen every variation of human cruelty family law had to offer. Victoria's lead counsel, Richard Sterling, Bradley's uncle, stood with the practiced ease of a man who'd never lost a case he cared about. "Your Honor, the facts are simple. Mr. Chen, while well-meaning, cannot provide the stable environment young Lily requires. His work schedule is erratic. His living situation is unsuitable. He resides in a 400-square-foot studio apartment in Flushing, Queens. The neighborhood crime rate is 3 times the city average." "That's not true," Marcus interrupted quietly. Sterling smiled indulgently. "Mr. Chen, please, the statistics are a matter of public record." "The statistics you're citing are from 2019, David Park interjected. "The area has undergone significant revitalization. I have current NYPD data." "Your Honor," Sterling cut him off smoothly, "we also have concerns about Mr. Chen's mental state. He has become increasingly obsessive about this custody arrangement. My client has documentation of over 40 text messages in the past month alone, many sent late at night, demanding to see Lily." Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Real tears? Marcus doubted it. She'd always been able to cry on command. "These are the texts of a desperate father," argued Park. "Mr. Chen's custody time has been systematically reduced without legal cause." "Without legal cause?" Sterling's voice rose with theatrical disbelief. "Mrs. Ashford has every right to protect her daughter from an unstable parent. Mr. Chen showed up at Lily's private school last week, uninvited, demanding to see her." "It was Wednesday," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the rage building in his chest. "I went to pick her up, like I've done for 5 years. The arrangement had been modified," Sterling said dismissively. "You were notified." "I was not notified." "Your Honor, this is exactly the kind of irrational behavior we're concerned about," Sterling continued, ignoring Marcus entirely. "Mr. Chen refuses to accept reality. He harasses my client. He shows up at the child's school unannounced. He sends dozens of threatening messages."
They weren't threatening, Marcus interrupted, louder now. I was asking to see my daughter. I have rights. Mr. Chen, please control yourself, Judge Morrison said firmly. Mr. Sterling, continue.
Sterling pulled out a folder, distributing copies to the judge and David Park. Your Honor, we've compiled a comprehensive assessment of Mr. Chen's living situation, work schedule, and financial status. The evidence paints a concerning picture of a man incapable of providing adequate care for a 7-year-old child. Marcus watched as the judge flipped through the photos. His studio apartment, photographed from the most unflattering angles. The single Murphy bed, the hot plate he used for cooking, the small desk where Lily did homework during visits. "You photographed my home?" Marcus asked, disbelief coloring his voice. "How did you even—" "The building superintendent was very cooperative," Sterling said smoothly, given the concerns for Lily's welfare. "You bribed my super," Marcus said flatly. "We compensated him for his time," Sterling corrected. "There's a difference. Your Honor, please note the unsafe conditions. The radiator is exposed. The window guards are code compliant," Park interrupted. "I verified with the city." "Gentlemen," Judge Morrison's voice cut through the argument. "Mrs. Ashford, you wish to testify?" Victoria stood, smoothing her Chanel dress, the navy one with pearl buttons, approximately $8,000. She walked to the witness stand with practiced grace, her 4-inch Louboutins clicking against the floor. "Mrs. Ashford, can you describe your concerns about Mr. Chen's custody of your daughter?" Sterling asked gently. Victoria's voice trembled with emotion. "I'm worried about Lily's safety, Your Honor. Marcus, Mr. Chen, he's become increasingly erratic. He calls at all hours, he shows up at places he shouldn't be. Last month, he came to our home in Greenwich at midnight, pounding on the door, screaming that he wanted to see Lily." "That's a lie," Marcus said, but his voice was drowned out by Sterling's continuation. "And what impact has this had on Lily?" Sterling prompted. "She's terrified," Victoria said, and now the tears flowed freely. "She has nightmares, she wets the bed. Her therapist, Dr. Amanda Ashford, a child psychologist, has documented symptoms of anxiety directly related to these custody exchanges." "Dr. Amanda Ashford," Marcus repeated. "Your cousin. How convenient." "Mr. Chen," Judge Morrison's voice was sharp with warning. "One more outburst and I'll hold you in contempt." Marcus fell silent, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair so hard his knuckles went white. Sterling continued smoothly. "Mrs. Ashford, can you describe the environment you and Mr. Bradley Ashford can provide for Lily?" Victoria's tears disappeared as quickly as they'd come, replaced with proud serenity. "Bradley and I live in a 6-bedroom home in Greenwich, Connecticut. Lily has her own room, decorated by an interior designer. She attends Greenwich Academy, one of the finest private schools in the country. She has writing lessons, piano, French tutoring. We can provide everything she needs: stability, security, opportunities." "And Mr. Chen's apartment?" "It's a studio in Queens," she said, as if the words themselves were contaminated. "Lily has to sleep on a cot. There's no yard to play in. The neighborhood is dangerous. I'm terrified every time she has to go there." "Your Honor," Sterling turned to the judge, "we're asking for sole physical and legal custody to be granted to Mrs. Ashford, with Mr. Chen receiving supervised visitation every other Sunday afternoon for 2 hours at a court-approved facility." The words hit Marcus like physical blows. Supervised visitation, 2 hours every other week, in a facility with guards and cameras, as if he were a criminal. "Your Honor," David Park stood, his voice carrying less confidence than Marcus would have liked. "This is an extreme request. Mr. Chen has never harmed his daughter. There have been no substantiated allegations of abuse or neglect. He's a working parent trying his best." "His best isn't good enough," Sterling interrupting. "The question before this court isn't whether Mr. Chen loves his daughter. I'm sure he does in his own way. The question is what's best for Lily, and what's best is a stable home with adequate resources, not a studio apartment in Flushing, Queens." Bradley stood suddenly from the gallery. "Your Honor, if I may?" Judge Morrison looked surprised but nodded. "Mr. Ashford?" Bradley walked forward with the confidence of someone who'd never been denied anything in his life. His Tom Ford suit probably cost $6,000. His Harvard law ring gleamed on his finger. "Your Honor, I want to formally offer to adopt Lily," Bradley said. "I love her as my own daughter. I can provide for her in ways her biological father simply cannot. I'm prepared to establish a trust fund, $5 million, managed by our family's advisors for her education and future. All we're asking is that this court acknowledge reality. Marcus Chen is not equipped to be a father to this child." The courtroom fell silent. Marcus felt the walls closing in. $5 million? Greenwich Academy? A 6-bedroom house? How could he compete with that? "Mr. Park?" Judge Morrison asked.
Response? David Park looked at his notes, then at Marcus. In his eyes, Marcus saw defeat. They both knew how this would end. Your Honor, my client, Mr. Chen, works hard. He loves his daughter, but we acknowledge that Mrs. Ashford can provide material advantages. No, Marcus stood, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Every eye in the courtroom turned to him. Mr. Chen, sit down, Judge Morrison ordered. No, Marcus repeated. His voice was quiet but firm. I will not sit down while they lie about me. I will not let them take my daughter based on money and fabrications. Mr. Chen, if you do not sit down immediately, I will hold you in contempt, Judge Morrison warned. Then hold me in contempt, Marcus said. But I want it on the record that everything they've said is a lie. I never went to their house at midnight. I never sent threatening messages. I'm not unstable or dangerous. I'm just a father who wants to see his daughter. Sterling laughed, actually laughed. Your Honor, this outburst proves our point exactly. Mr. Chen is emotionally unstable. He can't control himself in a courtroom. How can we trust him alone with a child? I'm going to recommend full custody to Mrs. Ashford. Supervised visitation every other Sunday, 2 hours, at the Queen's Family Services facility. Mr. Chen, you'll be responsible for the supervision fees, $75 per session. This is my ruling, and it's final unless... The courtroom door slammed open with a sound like thunder.
The man who entered was in his 70s, but he moved with military precision. His hair was steel gray, cut short. His suit was bespoke Savile Row. Marcus recognized the craftsmanship because the man had taught him to recognize it. Behind him came 4 people. 2 men in dark suits carrying briefcases, 1 woman in a power suit holding a tablet, and a younger woman with a camera. Victoria's face went white. Actually white, like every drop of blood had drained from her skin. "Father?" she whispered. Harrison Ashford Sr. had not spoken to his daughter in 7 years. Not since she'd divorced Marcus and married Bradley. Not since she'd chosen the Ashford name and money over what Harrison considered basic human decency. "Your Honor," Harrison's voice filled the courtroom with authority. "I apologize for the interruption. My name is Harrison Ashford Sr. I'm Victoria's father and Lily's grandfather. I have information pertinent to this case." Judge Morrison looked bewildered. "Mr. Ashford, this is highly irregular." "I'm aware, Your Honor. I'm also aware that this court is about to make a decision based on false testimony, fraudulent evidence, and perjury. I'm here to correct the record." He turned to look at his daughter and Bradley, and to expose the truth about these 2 criminals. "Father, you can't just..." Victoria started. "Sit down, Victoria," Harrison commanded. And she did, automatically, the way she'd always obeyed him before she chose money over morals. Bradley stood. "Your Honor, this is absurd. We don't have to listen to this old man's senile ramblings." "Bradley Ashford," Harrison said, his voice cold as winter steel. "The last time you called me senile was at the Ashford and Sterling Partners meeting 6 months ago, right before I removed you from the partnership. How's your career going, by the way? Still calling yourself a partner when you haven't billed a single hour in 8 months?" Bradley's face flushed red. "You can't. That's confidential firm business." "Your Honor," one of the men who'd entered with Harrison stepped forward. "My name is Robert Chen. I'm a senior partner at Chen, Williams & Rodriguez, one of the largest corporate law firms in New York. I'm also Marcus Chen's older brother. I've been asked to present evidence in this custody case." Marcus stared. Robert was here. His brother, who'd made partner at 35, who represented Fortune 500 companies, who Marcus hadn't seen in months because Robert had been in London closing a merger. "Your Honor," Robert continued, "everything the Ashfords have presented today is fiction. My brother doesn't live in a studio apartment in Flushing. He lives in a 4-bedroom brownstone in Brooklyn Heights that he purchased 8 years ago, which is currently undergoing renovation. He's been staying in a temporary apartment during construction, which is scheduled to complete next week." Robert handed a folder to the bailiff. "Here are the property deeds, the renovation permits, and photographs of the completed work. Lily's bedroom has been ready for 3 weeks. It's larger than her room at the Ashfords' Greenwich house." Sterling stood, sputtering. "This is, Your Honor, we had no notice of this evidence." "You had no notice because you never asked," Robert said calmly. "You were too busy bribing building superintendents to photograph a temporary residence." "The NYPD crime statistics Mr. Sterling cited?" The woman with the tablet stepped forward. "My name is Jennifer Wu, data analyst for the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. The statistics Mr. Sterling presented are not only outdated, they're for the wrong neighborhood. The address he cited is 3 miles from my brother's actual residence. Brooklyn Heights has one of the lowest crime rates in the city." Judge Morrison's expression had shifted from annoyed to fascinated. "Go on."
Harrison stepped forward again. Your Honor, my daughter testified that Marcus came to their house at midnight, screaming to see Lily. This is false. On the night in question, September 15th, Marcus was in Taiwan, attending his mother's funeral. I was there with him. We have flight records, custom stamps, and photographs from the service. He handed another folder to the bailiff. Victoria and Bradley knew this because Marcus had informed them weeks in advance. He'd even offered to postpone his trip if he could have extra time with Lily when he returned. They denied his request, and then fabricated this entire incident. Victoria stood shakily. That's not. Father, you're confused. I am many things, Victoria, but confused is not one of them. Harrison's voice could have frozen hell. You want to know what else I have? Phone records. Every text message Marcus sent you. All 40 of them that Sterling mentioned. None threatening. All asking politely for his custody time. Want to know what else I have? The email you sent to your cousin Amanda, asking her to write a psychological report diagnosing Lily with anxiety, even though Amanda has never met Lily. That's called fraud, Victoria. It's also malpractice. The New York State Board of Psychology will be very interested. Your Honor, this is outrageous, Sterling protested. Mr. Ashford Sr. has no standing in this case. I have every standing, Harrison interrupted. I'm Lily's grandfather. I'm also the man who built Ashford and Sterling 70 years ago. The firm you're using to perpetrate this fraud, I still own 60% of it. And as of this morning, Richard, you're fired. Sterling's face went from red to purple. You can't. The partnership agreement. The partnership agreement has a morality clause, Harrison said. Supporting perjury, presenting fraudulent evidence, and conspiracy to commit fraud all qualify. Security will box up your office tomorrow. The second man with Harrison stepped forward. My name is Thomas Ashford. I'm Harrison's son and Victoria's brother. I'm also a CPA and forensic accountant. I need to enter evidence regarding Bradley and Victoria's finances. Judge Morrison had given up, looking surprised. Proceed. Thomas opened his briefcase. Bradley Ashford claimed he would establish a $5 million trust fund for Lily. This is impossible, because Bradley is currently $2.3 million in debt. His assets were frozen last week by the SEC as part of an insider trading investigation. Victoria's personal accounts are overdrawn by $47,000. The Greenwich house they're so proud of, foreclosure proceedings begin next month. They're bankrupt. The courtroom erupted. Bradley lunged toward Thomas, but the bailiff stepped between them. Victoria collapsed back into her seat, her face in her hands. Furthermore, Thomas continued, we've discovered that Bradley and Victoria have been systematically stealing from Lily's existing trust fund, established by our father when she was born, to fund their lifestyle. They've taken over $300,000 in the past year alone. That's theft, and we filed charges. Your Honor, Robert said, we also have evidence of deliberate alienation of affection. Victoria has been telling Lily that her father abandoned her, that he doesn't love her, that he's dangerous. We have recordings. Lily's school has a therapy program where sessions are recorded with parental consent. Victoria consented, presumably thinking no one would ever review them. We have 6 months of recordings where Lily describes the things Victoria tells her about Marcus. It's psychological abuse. Harrison pulls her final folder, and this, Your Honor, is the most important evidence. A sworn affidavit from Lily herself, taken yesterday with a court-appointed child advocate present. In it, she states that she loves her father, wants to live with him, and is terrified of Bradley. Terrified? Judge Morrison asked sharply. Bradley has anger issues, Harrison said quietly. 3 weeks ago, he struck Lily hard enough to leave bruises when she asked if she could call her father. We have photographs. The school nurse documented them. We have a report. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the court reporter had stopped typing, her hands frozen above the keys. Bradley shot to his feet. This is insane. You can't prove any of this. That old bastard has hated me from the beginning. Sit down, Bradley. Judge Morris said, the voice cracked like a whip. Bailiff, I want copies of all this evidence, now.
The next 30 minutes were the longest of Marcus's life. He watched as Judge Morrison reviewed document after document, her expression growing darker with each page. Robert stood beside Marcus, one hand on his shoulder. Why didn't you tell me? Marcus whispered to his brother. Because you needed to see them expose themselves first, Robert whispered back. We needed their lies on the record, Harrison insisted. Marcus looked at his former father-in-law. Harrison met his eyes and nodded slightly. Victoria was crying now, real tears this time, her makeup running down her face in black rivers. Her $8,000 Chanel dress suddenly looked like a costume, borrowed finery on a woman pretending to be someone she wasn't. Bradley was on his phone, frantically texting. His Uncle Richard had already left the courtroom, probably calling his own lawyer. Mr. Ashford, Judge Morrison addressed Bradley, would you like to explain these photographs? She held up pictures of Lily's arm, dark bruises in the distinctive pattern of finger marks. Bradley's face went pale. She fell. She's clumsy. She fell onto your hand? Morrison's voice dripped with sarcasm. Hard enough to leave 5 separate finger-shaped bruises? Your Honor, I love that child. You don't love her, Harrison interrupted. You tolerate her because you thought she came with money. The moment you realized I'd cut Victoria off, you started resenting Lily. My granddaughter became an inconvenience to you. That's not true, Victoria cried. Bradley loves Lily. He's been a wonderful father. He hit her, Victoria, and his voice broke for the first time. He hit my granddaughter, your daughter, and you did nothing. Victoria fell silent, her tears flowing harder. Judge Morrison set down the photographs. Mrs. Ashford,
Did you witness Mr. Bradley Ashford strike your daughter? Victoria's silence was answer enough. Mrs. Ashford, I asked you a question. Yes, Victoria whispered. But it was just once. He was stressed. He didn't mean... He hit a 7-year-old child, and you did nothing to protect her, Morrison said. You then came into my courtroom and accused her father, who has never harmed her, of being a danger to her. Do you understand the severity of what you've done? Victoria couldn't speak. She could only cry. Robert stepped forward. Your Honor, we're requesting an immediate emergency custody order granting full physical and legal custody to Marcus Chen. We're also requesting a restraining order preventing Victoria or Bradley Ashford from coming within 500 feet of Lily or Marcus. Granted, Judge Morrison said without hesitation. Additionally, I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for investigation of perjury, fraud, child abuse, and any other applicable charges. Bailiff, I want both Mr. and Mrs. Ashford held for questioning by the NYPD. You can't do this, Bradley shouted. I have rights. I want my lawyer. Your lawyer is your uncle, and he just fled the courtroom, Morrison said dryly. You will be provided with a public defender. Bailiff? 2 officers entered the courtroom. Bradley tried to run. Actually tried to run, but he made it maybe 3 steps before they grabbed him. The handcuffs clicking around his wrists echoed in the silent room. Victoria stood more quietly, her hands extended. She looked at her father as the handcuffs closed. Daddy, please, don't let them... You made your choice, Victoria, Harrison said, and his voice was infinitely sad. 7 years ago, you chose the Ashford name and money over being a decent human being. You threw away a good man because he wasn't rich enough for you. You married a monster because he came with a trust fund. And when that monster hurt your daughter, you did nothing. I can't save you from the consequences of your choices. They led Victoria and Bradley away. Sterling slipped out a side door, probably already calling a criminal defense attorney. The court reporter finally started typing again, documenting the end of Victoria Ashford's world.
Judge Morrison removed her glasses and looked at Marcus. Mr. Chen, I owe you an apology. This court nearly made a terrible mistake today. Marcus stood, his legs shaky. Your Honor, you were given false information. You couldn't have known. I should have known, Morrison said. I should have looked closer. I'm sorry. She glanced at the evidence spread across her desk. Full physical and legal custody is granted to you, effective immediately. Where is Lily now? She's with me, Harrison said quietly. I picked her up from school this morning, told them there was a family emergency. She's at my house with her grandmother. She doesn't know about any of this yet. Morrison nodded. Mr. Chen, I'm ordering family therapy for you and Lily. Not because I think you need it, but because she's been psychologically manipulated for months. She'll need help processing what her mother did. I understand, Your Honor, Marcus said. As for Mrs. Ashford, when she's released from custody, she'll be allowed supervised visitation, 1 hour per month at a facility with a court-appointed supervisor. She'll pay the fees. If she misses a single payment or violates any condition, visitation is revoked entirely. Harrison raised his hand slightly. Your Honor, I'll cover the supervision fees. Victoria is still my daughter, and Lily deserves to maintain some relationship with her mother, even if that relationship is broken. Morrison softened slightly. That's generous of you, Mr. Ashford. It's not generous, Harrison said. It's heartbreaking, but it's right. The judge stood. This court is adjourned. Mr. Chen, take your daughter home. Marcus stood outside the courthouse 20 minutes later, the late afternoon sun warm on his face. Robert stood beside him, along with Harrison, Thomas, Jennifer, and Robert's assistant. I don't understand, Marcus said quietly. Why? Why did you all do this? Harrison answered. Because you're family, Marcus. You'll always be family. When Victoria divorced you, I told her she was making the worst mistake of her life. She chose not to believe me. But you've been a good father, a good man. You worked construction to put yourself through business school. You started your own company. Wait, what? Marcus looked at Robert. Robert smiled. Did you really think I didn't know? Chen Development Partners, the commercial real estate firm you founded 4 years ago? The one that's currently worth $50 million? Marcus, I'm your lawyer. I incorporated the company. Marcus felt dizzy. But I never told Victoria. Because she never asked, Harrison said gently. She saw what she wanted to see, a construction worker beneath her station. She never bothered to learn that you'd gone to business school while working construction, that you'd built a successful company, that you were a self-made millionaire.
She was too busy spending her own trust fund to notice you didn't need her money. You let them think you were poor, Robert said. You lived in that temporary apartment, drove that old car, wore cheap suits to court. Why? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Because I wanted to see who they really were. I wanted the judge to see it too. If I'd shown up in an Armani suit, driving a Mercedes, would she have believed I was the struggling single father? Or would she have seen a bitter ex-husband fighting over money? You played them, Thomas said with admiration. You let them think they'd won. They humiliated themselves, Marcus corrected. I just gave them the rope. Harrison laughed, a sound Marcus hadn't heard in years. You always were smarter than Victoria gave you credit for. Come on, let's go get Lily.
6 months later, the Brooklyn Heights brownstone gleamed in the summer sunshine. The renovation was complete. Original hardwood floors restored, modern kitchen, 4 bedrooms, a garden in the back where Lily's swing set stood. Marcus pushed his daughter on the swing, her laughter echoing off the brick walls. She'd grown in the past 6 months, taller, happier. The nightmares had stopped. The therapy was working. "Higher, Daddy," Lily squealed. "Any higher and you'll hit the moon," Marcus teased, but he pushed harder anyway. Robert emerged from the house carrying lemonade. "Your conference call with the Singapore investors went well. They're ready to sign." Marcus caught the swing, bringing Lily to a gentle stop. "I need to take this call, sweetheart. Uncle Robert will push you, okay?" "Okay." Lily ran to Robert, who scooped her up and spun her around. Marcus walked into his home office, the one with built-in bookshelves and a mahogany desk and a view of the garden. The home office Victoria had told him he'd never need because he'd never amount to anything. His company, Chen Development Partners, had just closed a deal on 3 commercial properties in Singapore. The valuation had hit $75 million. He was personally worth approximately $40 million, though he still drove a Honda Civic and wore his Timex watch because he liked them. On his desk sat a framed photograph from Lily's 8th birthday party last month. Lily in the middle, Marcus on one side, Harrison and his wife Margaret on the other, Robert and Thomas in the back. Jennifer Wu had been there too, having become a family friend. 20 people in total, all celebrating Lily. Victoria hadn't been there. She'd been allowed her monthly supervised visit the week before. She'd cried through most of it. Lily had been polite but distant. The relationship was broken, perhaps permanently. That wasn't Marcus' fault. He tried to facilitate healing, encouraged Lily to be open to her mother, paid for family therapy that Victoria rarely attended. Bradley was in prison, serving 18 months for assault and fraud. Sterling had been disbarred. The Greenwich house had been foreclosed. Victoria lived in a studio apartment in Stanford, actually a studio apartment, not a Brooklyn Heights brownstone during renovation. She worked as a receptionist at a dental office. The fall from grace had been total. Marcus couldn't find it in himself to feel satisfaction about her downfall. Mostly he felt sad for Lily, who'd lost her mother to greed and poor choices. His phone buzzed. A text from Harrison. "Dinner Sunday. Margaret wants to make Lily's favorite." Marcus smiled and replied, "We'll be there." Family. That's what mattered. Not money, not status, not winning. Family. Though he had to admit, as he looked out at his daughter laughing in his garden, in his home, safe and loved and happy, winning didn't feel too bad either. If you enjoyed this story of justice and karma, let me know in the comments. What would you have done in Marcus's position? Would you have revealed your success earlier, or did he make the right choice in letting them expose themselves first? Thanks for reading.